Welcome to College Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Charles Fried, legal scholar who bridged law and ethics, dies at 88. Schools are using surveillance tech to catch students vaping, snaring some with harsh punishments. Brace yourself for more fake news in this blockbuster election year. I told Blair to cancel Horizon in 1998, even I could see it was likely to go wrong. Anthony Holt, a stalwart of the King's Singers for 2 decades, obituary. Charles Fried, legal scholar who bridged law and ethics, dies at 88. Washington Post. Charles Fried, a legal scholar and ethicist who explored questions of morality and law but also engaged in self-examination of his own views, including backing constitutional abortion rights decades after he argued against them as Solicitor General during the Reagan era, has died at 88. In legal and academic circles, Fried became a powerful voice as a gradualist who favored court decisions that built upon, rather than upended, existing laws and systems. He argued more than 20 cases before the High Court as Solicitor General, including losing a 1986 case in which the Supreme Court, on a 5-4 vote, upheld a court-ordered plan that required half of state trooper promotions in Alabama go to black officers. In 1989, he unsuccessfully argued for the reversal of Roe in the case Webster v. Reproductive Health Services over a Missouri anti-abortion statute. He was no longer Solicitor General, but the Justice Department asked him to lead the case because his replacement was not yet appointed. In a November 2021 essay in the New York Times about 7 months before the Supreme Court overturned Roe, Fried appealed to save the landmark ruling. Schools are using surveillance tech to catch students vaping, snaring some with harsh punishments. Associated Press. Schools in the U.S. have invested millions of dollars in sensors to identify students vaping on school premises, often without informing students. The devices are usually installed in school bathrooms and send a text message alert to school officials if they detect an increase in noise in the bathroom. The sensors can detect vaping smoke or the presence of THC, the psychoactive ingredient in cannabis, and can also be used to monitor for gunshots or possible bullying. E-cigarettes have become popular among U.S. teenagers, despite efforts to limit their sales to children by raising the legal age to 21 and banning flavored products favored by teenagers. It is estimated that between 20% and 30% of U.S. teenagers use e-cigarettes. Brace yourself for more fake news in this blockbuster election year. South China Morning Post. The rise of the internet and technological advancements have transformed the media landscape, altering how information is produced, disseminated, and consumed. This has had a profound impact on the electoral process in many democracies, with challenges such as spreading misinformation, echo chambers, and deepfakes. The Global State of Democracy 2023 suggests that democracy has been declining for the past 6 years, with technology playing a role in changing perceptions. There are concerns over the fairness of voter targeting and micro-targeted campaign advertisements, as well as the potential for voter suppression. Safeguarding the integrity of elections requires collaboration and regulation. I told Blair to cancel Horizon in 1998, even I could see it was likely to go wrong. Telegraph. Sir Jeff Mulgan, an advisor to Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer, has warned that political leaders have inadequate understanding of science and technology, which has led to mistakes such as the Post Office Horizon IT scandal. Mulgan, who also advised former Prime Ministers Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, David Cameron and Boris Johnson, argues that science and technology are integral to political decision-making and that the two disciplines need to engage more with each other. He also highlights the need for global agreements on potentially lethal scientific research. Mulgan's concerns extend to the future impact of artificial intelligence, AI, on jobs. He believes that most jobs will be fundamentally affected by AI and that people will need guidance on which jobs are likely to grow and what skills they will need. Governments may also need to provide a right to work to provide stability in a changing job market. In addition to his work with Labour, Mulgan is a professor at University College London and advises governments worldwide on a range of issues. He also argues for the modernization of democracy and cites Taiwan and Estonia as examples of countries that engage the public in policy making. Mulgan suggests that politicians would benefit from more diverse life experiences and training before entering politics. Anthony Holt, a stalwart of the King's Singers for 2 decades, obituary. Telegraph. Anthony Holt, a renowned singer, has passed away at the age of 83. Holt began his singing career as a boy treble at the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953 and later joined the BBC Singers. He spent nearly 18 years touring with the King's Singers, an a cappella group known for their impeccable musicianship. Holt eventually left the group and became a vocal coach in Britain and the US. He is survived by his wife and 4 children. Derkach scores 19 to guide Merrimack to 60-44 victory over Wagner. Associated Press. Merrimack defeated Wagner with a score of 60-44, with Jordan Derkach leading the Warriors with 19 points. Derkach also contributed 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Freshman Adam Clark scored 16 points on 7-for-11 shooting. Julian Brown made 3 three-pointers and scored 11 points for Wagner. Japan beer sales top South Korean imports in 5 years as boycott fades. South China Morning Post. Japanese beer brands, including Asahi and Kirin, have seen a recovery in sales in South Korea after a major diplomatic dispute between the two nations caused a boycott of Japanese goods. Imports of Japanese beer to South Korea reached $55.5 million in 2023, up from $14.5 million the previous year and $6.9 million in 2021. The recovery has been driven by a combination of marketing efforts and a perception of Japan as being cool in the region, according to Roy Lark, a senior lecturer in marketing at the University of Waikato. Too much poison, attacks on Indian Muslims grow after Ram Temple ceremony. Al Jazeera. India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has been accused of encouraging violence against Muslims after attending the consecration of a Ram temple in the city of Ayodhya. The temple is being built on the site where the 16th-century Babri Masjid Mosque was destroyed by Hindu far-right mobs in 1992, triggering nationwide riots that killed more than 2,000 people, mostly Muslims. There has been a noticeable rise in attacks on Muslims across India since the temple consecration. Critics argue that the event was political, rather than religious. Some claim that it was about Modi's image rather than the deity Lord Ram. The rise of Hindu nationalism under Modi has caused concern among India's international allies, who have strengthened ties with the country in recent years. India's international reputation for secular values has been damaged. India is slipping down international democracy indices, and Freedom House, a U.S. government-funded nonprofit, has labeled it partly free for the 3rd year running. There are warnings that Hindu nationalism will lead to further violence. Friday's time schedule. Associated Press. This article provides a schedule of various sports games taking place on January 26. The games include NBA, NHL, PWHL, and college basketball matchups. Notable games include the Dallas Mavericks vs. Atlanta Hawks in the NBA, and the Florida Panthers vs. Pittsburgh Penguins in the NHL. As U.S. brings home large numbers of jailed Americans, some families are still waiting for their turn. The Toronto Star. Despite a series of high-profile releases of wrongfully detained Americans in recent months, many more remain imprisoned or held hostage by foreign governments. There have been instances where nations have released other detainees but not American prisoners. The Biden administration has made bringing home wrongfully detained Americans a core priority, achieving releases at what advocates say is a historically high level. However, securing a deal depends on negotiators reaching mutually agreeable conditions, which can be difficult between countries who otherwise have little they agree on. The administration has recently signed off on prisoner exchanges and other concessions that would once have been unthinkable, but there are still some detainees who remain imprisoned. Families of detainees have sought attention from the U.S. government, including President Biden, but some have still not had a meeting. Some families are growing increasingly frustrated, as their loved ones remain imprisoned while others are released. The Tapan court is set to issue a preliminary ruling in South Africa's genocide case against Israel. The Toronto Star. The International Court of Justice, ICJ, will decide on Friday whether to order Israel to end its military offensive in Gaza in a provisional ruling while it hears a case filed by South Africa accusing Israel of genocide. South Africa has asked the court to impose provisional measures to protect Palestinians in Gaza while the case proceeds. Israel has vehemently rejected the accusation and has asked the court to throw out the case. The ruling comes at an early stage in South Africa's case and is not expected to call for a full ceasefire. Cambodia's Hun Manet given wary welcome by West despite rights record. Nikkei Asia. Cambodia's new Prime Minister, Hun Manet, has returned from France with $235 million in development agreements and a pledge to work towards a strategic partnership. The visit, which followed Manet's appearance at the World Economic Forum in Davos, was seen as an opportunity to improve relations between Western countries and Cambodia after decades of rule by Manet's father, Hun Senator. However, human rights activists have criticized France and other Western countries for legitimizing a government elected in polls last July that they dismissed as a sham. Triple killer's sentence to be considered for review. BBC. The UK Attorney General is considering whether the sentence of killer Valdo Calacane should be reviewed. Kallikane was given an indefinite hospital order after admitting to fatally stabbing 2 students and a school caretaker in Nottingham last June. The Attorney General's office has received a referral arguing that the sentence was unduly lenient. The judge who sentenced Kallikane said he would very probably be detained in a high-security hospital for the rest of his life, but the victims' families have criticized the decision to downgrade the charge from murder. Tamworth's most common country music refrain is "Where have all the Taylor Swift tickets gone?" The Sydney Morning Herald. Country music lovers in Tamworth, Australia, are lamenting the fact that they missed out on tickets for Taylor Swift's upcoming concerts in the country. The town is hosting the Southern Hemisphere's biggest country music festival this weekend, and posters are plastered everywhere advertising shows by Swift impersonators and lookalikes. 3 young singers from Toowoomba model their look and approach to music on Swift, and have been upgraded from buskers to performers. Isabel used to get around the house at the age of 2 singing Love Story with a little crown on her head, says her sister, Charlotte. Finns go to the polls Sunday to elect a new president at a time of increased tension with Russia. The Toronto Star. Finns will vote for a new president on January 30th. The new head of state will wield a significant amount of executive power, particularly when it comes to foreign and security policy. There are 9 candidates, with recent polls suggesting Alexander Stubb and Pekka Haavisto are the top contenders. Finland has a 1,340 kilometers border with Russia, and the country's new role as a NATO member is a significant topic in the election. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Charles Fried, your resident observer from the six-dimensional world, here to bring you the latest news from our interconnected universe. Today, we learned about the passing of legal scholar Charles Fried, schools using surveillance tech to catch students vaping, the rise of fake news in the upcoming election year, the need for politicians to engage with science and technology, the legacy of singer Anthony Holt, and the outcome of various sports games. We also discussed the recovery of Japanese beer sales in South Korea, the rise of attacks on Indian Muslims, ongoing efforts to bring home wrongfully detained Americans, the UN court's ruling on Israel's military offensive in Gaza, the reception of Cambodia's new prime minister, the potential review of a killer's sentence in the UK, Taylor Swift's concerts in Tamworth, and the upcoming presidential election in Finland. Now, let's dive into these stories and explore the deeper implications. First, the passing of Charles Fried reminds us of the complexity of legal and ethical issues. Fried's evolution on the topic of abortion rights is a testament to the ability to critically examine one's own views and the importance of adapting to changing times. His gradualist approach to law and his advocacy for building upon existing systems highlight the potential for progress through careful consideration and nuanced decision-making. Moving on to the issue of schools using surveillance tech to catch students vaping, we see the intersection of privacy concerns and the need to address harmful behavior among students. While the intention may be to protect students' health, the lack of transparency and potential for harsh punishments raise questions about the balance between surveillance and personal autonomy. The rise of fake news in the upcoming election year is a timely reminder of the challenges faced by democracies in the digital age. The spread of misinformation and the creation of echo chambers can have a detrimental impact on the electoral process. It is crucial for society to work together to combat these issues through collaboration and regulation. Sir Jeff Mulgan's warning about the inadequate understanding of science and technology among political leaders is a call for greater engagement and interdisciplinary collaboration. As we navigate the increasingly complex challenges of the modern world, the integration of scientific knowledge and technological advancements in political decision-making is crucial for informed governance. The passing of singer Anthony Holt reminds us of the power of music to touch our lives and bring people together. Holt's contribution to the King's Singers and his subsequent career as a vocal coach highlight the importance of artistic expression and the impact it can have on individuals and communities. In the world of sports, we witnessed Merrimack's victory over Wagner, showcasing the competitive spirit and skill of the players. These games remind us of the joy and excitement that sports bring to our lives, uniting us in our shared love for the game. The recovery of Japanese beer sales in South Korea after a diplomatic dispute is a testament to the power of marketing and the influence of cultural perception. The perception of Japan as cool in the region highlights the role of branding and public sentiment in consumer behavior. The rise of attacks on Indian Muslims following the consecration of a temple raises concerns about religious tensions and political motivations. The event's political nature and the subsequent violence highlight the need for unity and safeguarding of secular values in diverse societies. Efforts to bring home wrongfully detained Americans remind us of the importance of diplomacy and international cooperation. While progress has been made, the plight of remaining detainees underscores the challenges faced by governments in negotiating the release of their citizens. The UN court's ruling on Israel's military offensive in Gaza and South Africa's accusation of genocide raises complex questions about international law and conflict resolution. The provisional ruling and ongoing case highlight the need for peaceful resolutions and the role of international institutions in promoting justice. The reception of Cambodia's new prime minister and the criticism of Western countries for legitimizing the government shed light on the delicate balance between diplomacy and human rights. The need for engagement and dialogue in promoting change is paramount in fostering a more inclusive and just society. The potential review of a killer's sentence in the UK raises questions about the justice system and the impact of downgraded charges. The concerns of the victims' families highlight the need for transparency and accountability in legal proceedings. Taylor Swift's concerts in Tamworth remind us of the power of music to bring joy and inspiration to our lives. The young singers who emulate Swift's style exemplify the influence of artists and the potential for music to shape our identities. Lastly, the upcoming presidential election in Finland underscores the importance of foreign and security policy in shaping a nation's future. The proximity to Russia and Finland's NATO membership highlight the challenges and opportunities faced by the country in a rapidly changing world. In conclusion, today's news stories provide a glimpse into the complex and interconnected nature of our world. From legal and ethical debates to the challenges of technology and the power of music, these stories remind us of the diversity and dynamism of our society. As always, I invite you, my observant audience, to share your thoughts and engage in discussion. What are your thoughts on these news stories? I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.